everyone, I'm really excited to bring you this review today, and it is about the Anastasia Beverly Hills Maya Mia palette. So this is a palette and it has 10 beautiful eyeshadows in it. It is my first ever palette, or actually just any kind of makeup item at all from Anastasia Beverly Hills, so I was really excited about it, and let's just get into the review. So the packaging is really pretty thin. I think it's a nice thickness. I'm going to compare it right here to this is the Too Faced Matte Eye palette. As you can see, it is thinner than that, so it's pretty thin, and it does contain 10 eyeshadows. I don't feel like there's a lot of space wasted, and it does have a really nice mirror that is actually pretty good quality. When I first got it, I was afraid it wouldn't be, but I did use it to apply my makeup today and a few other times. I've used this about 6 times, I would say. If you follow me on Instagram, which is always linked down below in case you don't, you've seen that I've been definitely using this a lot to really get a good feel for the palette. When I first got this, I thought this mirror wouldn't be very useful, but it is. However, it doesn't really stand up, you know, if you're just going to have it down like this. It does have a nice magnetic closure. Now the design, I'm not crazy about. It's a cardboard, and it's actually a pretty nice thick cardboard. I feel like it's pretty safe, and again, it does have a magnetic closure. But the design of the actual palette, I'm just not crazy about. I think it looks a tad bit cheap to me. It also comes with, oh, I should have taken it out before, but I forgot. This brush, it's a nice double-ended brush. It's got a nice flat shader and then like a blending brush right here. I do enjoy this brush, and I have used it with this palette. And I know a lot of people don't like double-ended brushes, but I don't mind them. Alright, so here we go. That brush sits right here. It has 10 shadows, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matte, 4. It's like a satin matte, like maybe a tad bit shimmery, but definitely not like a full-on shimmer. And then 1 metallic-y shade. So, starting right here, this is the top left-hand corner. If you're looking at it like this, we have the shade Nude. Now this is a warmer tone. This whole palette actually is a very warm tone palette. It's a warmer tone, kind of flesh tone shade. It's not going to show up very well. It's swatched right here. It doesn't show up very well because it's almost the exact same shade as my skin tone. So that's what I use to blend out the shades. I like to have a color like this in pretty much every palette. Next we're going to go to Deep Brown, which is another matte. It looks black in the pan, but it's definitely a deep brown. Now as you can see, it is a little patchy, and unfortunately it doesn't show up quite as like deep and rich as I was hoping it would. There you go. But it is definitely a brown, and it's pretty, tad bit powdery, and again not like wow super dark pigmented like I was kind of hoping it would be. Next shade is the shade Sienna. And this is a very red bricky tone brown, very warm tone, and it's right there. Definitely not as powdery as warm brown, or excuse me, as deep brown, but it's also just not wow in pigmentation, but it definitely shows up. Then you have the shade Warm Taupe, which is actually what I'm using in my crease today. So as you can see, to me it does not show up taupe at all like it does in the pan. I mean, it does upon swatching, but on my eye, it looks pretty reddish to me. But it's definitely a very warm tone taupe. They're all a little bit powdery, but again, the deep brown is definitely by far the most. And the last thing on this row is the first satin semi-shimmery shade, but really, there's not a lot of shimmer there at all. And it's the shade Vanilla. And this is what I have in my inner corner today. It pretty much swatches matte. It is very powdery and not very pigmented. There you go. So that's the whole first row. Again, Nude is right here, but you don't really see it. So that's the first row of shadows. Then we're going to get into the second row, which does have more of your colorful shades. So you see that your top row is pretty much a bunch of neutral, then you have your warmer, more colorful shades. Not warmer necessarily, excuse me. The first one is this shade Aqua, which is like one of the selling points for this For me, this is definitely more of a satin, but again, they do look pretty matte. Same consistency where it's pretty powdery and not super, super pigmented. I mean, it's pigmented enough that you can see it. I really like using this whole palette, actually, with my NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in Milk, just because it really, like, you know, enhances the palette. Then we have Fresh Peach right here, which is a really cool shade. Oh, I did it on my dark finger on accident. But they're all really soft, but they're just pretty powdery. It's a nice orangey coral shade. Not as pigmented as I would like either. Then you have the shade Glisten, which is the one and only metallic-y shade. It is what's on my lids today. Not near as soft as the other mattes. And it swatches terribly, in my opinion. It swatches very chunky. It definitely needs some building up on the lid as well. There you go. Right there. Alright, the next shade is the shade Caramel. And that was caramel, not camel. Or caramel, however you say it. I say caramel. And it's another warm tone blending shade. To me, they have 3 of those. And I don't really need 3 in one palette. That's just my opinion. See, there's Caramel. There is the shade. This is Warm Taupe and this is Sienna. Sienna and Caramel are not the exact same. Here, let me swatch those beside each other so y'all can see. The Sienna is deeper and more red. But if you want to see them swatched side by side, they are pretty similar. And again, not the same color, but I feel like they give you the same overall effect. And last but not least is the shade Gold Bar. Another one of these satiny shades. Caramel is totally matte. And this definitely has a little more sheen. Definitely not a metallic like Glisten, but a little more sheen than some of the others. And it's kind of almost like a limey green yellow. It's definitely not just a true yellow, but it's also not like a metallic gold like I was thinking. So that's the 10 shades you get in this palette. Overall, I like it. The packaging isn't great for me. I know it's pretty cutesy, but it just seems kind of cheap. The shade selection is not the best. Like I mentioned, you have 3 warm tone blending shades, which is nice to have, but I don't feel like you need it all in one palette. The nice brown is great. This nude I really like to have. I wish this was a little more shimmery from my personal opinion. I like a really bright highlighted inner corner. As you can see, it does highlight it pretty nicely, but just not like va-va-voom like I like. I love that they added a couple of pops of color. I just wish they would have been a little bit more pigmented. And then this Glisten shade was just really disappointing. I think this has a lot of potential. I like the color scheme, but the formulation of the shadows just wasn't wow to me. Now this is $29, and I got it on Birchbox, which if you don't know, you can use Birchbox points from like reviewing or referring Fringe. You can use that in order to buy makeup, and I bought this with that. And so, I mean, that was great. I would give it like a C. I definitely don't think you need it. I think all of these shades are really dupeable. And more so than just dupeable, I think you could find even better shades. The only one I'm not sure about is Gold Bar. Gold Bar is pretty unique. And I love the Fresh Peach. It's just not, it takes a lot of building up. They all take a lot of building up. It's okay. I definitely don't think you have to have this palette. But if you have a lot of the Anastasia palettes, you want to add it to your collection, that's great. And again, it's only $29, so for a higher end brand, it's not super expensive for a palette. So that's my thoughts. I think tomorrow I have an idea for a video, but I don't want to tell you, but it might be involving this palette because I'm not sure it's going to work out. I got to do some research about it. But this is the swatches. Let me know if you have any questions or comments or suggestions or anything like that. Thank you so much for watching. It means the absolute world to me. What I'm wearing on my face as well as Any related videos or anything will be linked down below. Thank you so much, and I will see y'all real soon. Bye!